During the lockdown, I can stay busy, but it's kind of hard to have fun. I can mow the lawn just so many times. I miss troubleshooting my cars. At least I can still take a drive in the country with my old 190E. Beautiful day out. Maybe a little warm. My cheerful and talented assistant wants to roll the window down. Uh-oh. Looks like I may be in for a little fun after all. Back to the workshop. It's time to shoot some trouble. The first thing I'm going to check is the power window fuse. The fuse box is under the hood, in front of the driver's side. Flip the front latch forward, and then pop the wire bail at the back. The secret trick is to pinch the wire together to release the ends from the hinge. You can now lift the whole cover off and get great access to the fuses. The fuse I want is number 8 for the right front window. Fuse numbers are molded into the plastic in front of them. It is supposed to be a red 16 amp rating. These blue ones are rated 25 amps. Maybe the window motors were drawing too much current and the previous owner decided to upgrade. As long as I'm here, I'll check the relay in position 2. This relay serves the power windows and it's fairly standard. It is the 5-pin design used all over Mercedes cars. I'll pull it out to check for corrosion or burnt contacts, and then reseat it because it looks okay. Okay, cover goes back on, and don't forget to pinch and reseat the wire hinge bail. I've decided to pull the inner door panel. I can check the wiring and the switch and the motor at one location. Start by threading up the door latch knob. Next, there's a piece of plastic trim around the latch. Just one small Phillips screw holds it in. I'm putting all the small trim and fasteners in the center console as I go along. I'm less likely to lose them or step on them that way. Next is the small trim piece at the top of the armrest handle. Gently pry that out with a small screwdriver, and you now have access to the armrest bolt. It's a 10mm bolt. I'm just using small hand tools today. I'm less likely to damage those trim pieces. This bolt is surprisingly tight. I don't want to slip and crack the plastic. I'm going to pull the handle top out over here out of the way. This gives access to the door release rod connected to the handle. The handle assembly is mounted in a plastic frame housing. It slides out towards the door hinge. I will have to remove the power seat switch cover to make room. I'm using a plastic spatula tool to gently pry the switch covers off. Off they go, followed by the switch cover to join the other trim pieces in the console. I'm going to remove the 2 screws that hold the seat switch to give clearance to slide the handle forward. The trick is to slide the handle forward. Don't pry it straight out. The latch rod comes out, and you can now see the hooks at the back. A lot of people make the mistake of prying straight out. They break off the hooks, and then they are done. The molded inner door panel has the same trap. Plastic hooks facing down. You get the panel off by lifting it straight up, not by popping it straight out like on many other cars. Start at the bottom and lift and wiggle the panel upwards off the hooks. Work your way around the perimeter. The whole thing is plastic, so you can crack it if you're not careful. There are several small hooks and one large central hook behind the armrest. Start to gently remove the white plastic membrane. Be careful not to tear it. We will be putting it back on later. Work your way around the edges. Here is what we are interested in. It's the power junction to the window motor. I'm putting the multimeter on the 20-volt DC range. And pressing the leads tightly, one on each of the two wires, my cheerful and talented assistant will now turn on the key and operate the window switch. I'm looking for something like 12 volts here. No power here means the problem's upstream, either the switch or the wiring. But I am getting voltage, plus and minus. It's time to replace the window motor assembly. It sits between the inner and outer door skins, which makes access a little tight. The motor is attached to a white plastic mounting frame, which houses a balancing spring at the central pivot. On that pivot are two metal slider arms, the dark one with a sector gear, the shiny one on a second pivot. Inside the door, it looks like this: the motor, mounting frame, sector gear, center pivot, slider arms. All of that is just behind here. I'm working on electrical parts in a tight space, and I know I can be clumsy at times. So rather than risk shorting something out against the body, I'm just going to disconnect the battery negative terminal. Back to the power junction. Before removing the wires, make a note of their terminals. One is green, the other is black. If you reverse them later, your window switch will work backwards. On one end of the window side of the slider arm is a yellow zinc-plated anchor plate. I'll use this ratcheting wrench, this 1/4-inch drive adapter, and 10mm socket. I can just barely see the nut holding the anchor plate. The other arm has a plastic slider block on the end. This moves along the same aluminum channel at the bottom of the window glass. You'll want to maneuver it out of the cutaway slot. There is an anchoring slider as well. It anchors the pivot arm to the inner door. These captive bolts take 10mm nuts, just above the large cutaway opening. Notice the rear hole is slotted to adjust the glass alignment. The mounting frame has 3 captive bolts. They also take 10mm nuts and are located here, here, and up here. Have your cheerful and talented assistant gently grip the window glass while you remove the mounting bolts. This will keep the mechanism from crashing down inside the door. And I'm not kidding. Once the bolts were out, the assembly came out very easily. Too easily for me to remember to video the whole thing. Once I had the replacement in, I didn't want to undo it just to get the footage. Okay, time to hook up the power again and give it a try. Window goes down. Window goes up. Now with super slider action. Now before putting it back together, I lubricated everything that slides or pivots with white lithium grease. Match up the holes in the plastic membrane with the holes on the door. Start with the cutout for the door latch rod. You can hang the plastic on that and then work your way around. The edges should still be sticky enough to simply press back on. Line up the main armrest hook first. Slide it down onto the center cutout. You'll have to align the door latch opening as well. Thread the plastic knob on now to align it through the panel. You are now ready to gently press the panel back down on the plastic retainer hooks. Put the door handle frame back into its opening. The rod hooks behind the handle, and the plastic hooks face back towards the latch. It may take a couple of tries to get the power seat controls to line up with their fasteners. Snap the plastic cover plate back on. The switch covers just press back in. Make sure they move freely. Get the armrest handle top lined up for its bolt. There should be a hole in the membrane right there for it. Line up the tabs on the handle trim. And then it just presses into place. Now for the door latch trim. This whole inner door panel should line up and look at least as good as when you started. And lastly, wash down the glass. Both you and your cheerful, talented assistant have probably left fingerprints all over it. It's time for another country road drive. Thank you for watching. And let me wish you once again many more Mercedes miles. This video was made possible by subscribers like you. And
clicking the like button.
thank you.